Hello friends and fellow bakers, it's Chef Tom from ChefInstructorTom.com. Welcome back to the channel. I do appreciate you stopping by. Today we're going to make some cinnamon rolls as suggested by one of my students from Le Cordon Bleu. Thank you, Rick, I do appreciate that. He says it's one of his favorites and it's one of mine as well. I want to make you some very simple cinnamon rolls today. You can customize them however you like. You can fill them with whatever you want. You can put icing on them or not. They're great plain. It's up to you. It's your cinnamon roll. I'm just going to make them the way I like best, maybe in the kitchen. For cinnamon rolls, you'll need, of course, the standard flour, water, salt, and yeast. But we're also going to throw in some milk, butter, sugar, and eggs to make it a little more interesting, a little more rich dough. And I think you're going to really like the texture and mouthfeel of this dough. Now, you can use whole milk there if you want. Just add the water weight and the dry milk weight together and you'll get your whole milk weight. Either one's good, but I think you'll find that the dry milk does aid in browning a little bit. I think it's kind of a nice way to go. We're also going to lower the gluten content a bit on this by using both bread flour and cake flour, and this will also soften up the bread quite a bit. And I say bread, cinnamon rolls, but really, isn't it bread? It should be a softer product, don't you think? Cool. Let's get to mixing the bread. Since our dough is only at 20% butter, we can use the straight dough method on this one. Just a small amount of butter. I usually go with, like, if the dough is 25% fat or more, I use the brioche method. But this one, we can add all the ingredients in and use the straight dough method. We got water, dry milk, and I like to usually put those together. The yeast, all the ingredients that really need to be critically on the bottom. I usually put all the liquids on the bottom. I don't know, that's just me. Our sugar, our salt, our flour, the big guy of the bread flour, and the butter. And we can mix on slow for about 4 minutes. We're going to mix on slow for 4 minutes, just about this speed. Then I increase the speed to a faster speed for 4 more minutes. Assess the dough as you go along. If it's too dry, add a little bit more water. But I think this dough is just about right. Resist the temptation to add more flour. It's going to throw off your ratios. It's a pretty soft dough. It might look kind of sticky to you, but I think when you get it finished, you'll see what I mean. We'll come back and we will mix this at faster speed in 4 minutes. All right, it's been 4 minutes, and you'll see this dough is pretty sticky. You look like it, and you go, oh my God, I gotta add more flour. You really don't. Just scrape down the sides a little bit. Make sure you get everything incorporated. And then after we have this scraped down, if you need to, you can handle it with wet hands too. That'll scrape the dough right off, no problem at all. Or you could take that off the bowl altogether. There we go. All right, now let's put it back in the bowl once you've scraped a little bit. And we're going to put it on fast speed for another 4 minutes. Not super fast speed, but just a little faster. A little bit. And again, anytime you're handling the dough, handle it with wet hands and it will not stick to your hands. Now let's have a look at this dough. Now it looks like it's pretty sticky and it might be hard to handle. And it's, I won't lie to you, it's not exactly a dry dough by any means. But I think you'll fine that the finished product is pretty cool. Let's have a look at it and kind of assess your dough and kind of give it a little pull there. You'll feel the gluten development. We can use wet hands here. I'm going to scrape down the sides a little bit. And this has gone 4 minutes on slow and 4 minutes on fast. Let's get it out of the bowl there. And you can see it is holding together. We'll put it in the stainless steel bowl. Scrape all the dough out. And like I said, hold it with your wet hands and give it a little round if you can. I know it looks like it's not holding together. It looks like it's barely holding together, but this will end up being a great, great dough. We're going to cover this with a towel and we're going to let it ferment for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. During that time, what we can do is we can mix up our filling, the brown sugar, cinnamon, and butter. Let's make the filling for the cinnamon rolls while we wait for the dough to ferment. It's just a simple filling of brown sugar, butter, and cinnamon. And I'm using the good butter here. This is the finished butter. And I would highly recommend using the best butter you can for the filling, because that's really where a lot of the flavor is going to come from. Everything go in the bowl, and we're going to mix it just till it's combined. Doesn't have to be super combined, but it does have to be to the point where it's softened enough to be used in the for spreadable. As an alternative here, you could use almond cream if you like, or other choices might be pastry cream or ganache. It's up to you. Well, the filling is really nice and creamy now, and it's ready to be stored because we're not going to use it right away. I just wanted to have it ready to go. And what's nice about this is you can leave it out at room temperature because we're going to be filling the cinnamon rolls in just a little bit. After it does double in size. Right now we're still waiting on the dough to rise a bit. And you'll see that it's kind of creamy. Should be smooth, spreadable. And then you can just put it into a container like so. We'll leave this right next to the dough and we'll fill it in about an hour. Well, let's have a look at the dough and see how it's risen. It's been 2 hours since we mixed it and put it away for fermentation. As you can see, it's risen a bit, but it has not risen that much. The amount of sugar in this is kind of holding it back a little bit. And I know most people think that sugar makes yeast go faster. In this case, the fat and the sugar actually hold it back a little bit. We're going to roll this out to a rectangle. You'll need a rubber spatula, an offset metal spatula for spreading the filling. You'll need a serrated knife. I've also got some pan spray and 2 quarter sheets here. You could do a half sheet if you wanted to, but I kind of want them kind of close together. I'm going to put a little bit of parchment in each one there. And in fact, why don't I go ahead and spray those right now. Get them ready for accepting the dough. And yes, I do reuse my parchment. And as I said before, let's handle the dough with wet hands. Let's get it out of there. Get the last little bit of dough with that spatula. And I like to just kind of stretch the dough gently. Well, I am going to use a little bit of flour there, just making sure we don't have any major stickage. But you're going to be sure to get rid of that extra flour after you roll it out. So we'll stretch it out, be as even as possible. Gently, gently stretch it out. We're going to spread that out on our dough. Now, if you'll notice, I'm going to leave about 1.5 inch, 2 inch gap at the top there so that we can have that seal up the dough. You want that filling to go right to the edges so that we get good coverage all throughout. Once you get all your filling on, you're going to start rolling this, but you're going to start stretching this towards you a little bit. And it looks like it's going to rip. And if it does rip, it's not the end of the world. But you're going to stretch it out there towards you so that you get that nice tight roll that you like in the cinnamon rolls. And as you roll it up, you're going to be pulling it towards you too. So I'm lifting it up and I'm stretching it towards me. Lifting and stretching. As you see, the dough is very soft at this point. Now we're going to stretch that out to the corner there so that we get a nice 90-degree corner there, roll it up, and then with a little bit of water on your fingers, just put some water on that part that you didn't put any filling on. Then you stretch that filling over the top of the dough. If you tried to roll this up right now, it would cut very unevenly and it would just kind of mush together. So we're going to refrigerate this dough for about a half an hour before we cut it. Well, let's get these out. Now they are a lot firmer and much easier to cut. So let's put them on the cutting board here. And I'm going to give them a little rounding, as it were. That way they're a little more cylindrical. And if you want, if you find that you have any thick spots, you can always kind of spread this out a little bit, make it a little bit longer. I want to cut these about 1.5 inches to 2 inches in thickness. And at first I'm going to cut the end off. So you'll have 2 ends on there. But the key thing is, if you make them too thin, they're not too interesting to eat. They're much better when they're thicker. So I think 1.5 inches is kind of my go-to on that. And as you cut it through, cut using the sawing motion, back and forth. Don't push down with the knife. Just cut straight through with this sawing motion. So then these guys, when you pull this up, and I'm using 2 half-sheet pans because I want them kind of jammed together a little bit. I might only go maybe say 3 wide here, and let's see how maybe 4 wide this way. Let's go 4, like so. And you can always kind of re-round these, kind of round them up a little bit before they go on the pan. And you may be saying to yourself, why is he leaving so much space? Well, they're going to double in volume. They're going to definitely fill up this pan. Now, you could bake them all today if you want to. And it's going to take another 2.5 to 3 hours or so for it to rise in the pan like that. Or another way to go would be to let these sit in the refrigerator overnight, and then tomorrow morning we'll bake them off. So for instance, you could start these on a Friday, get them to this point, and then leave them in the refrigerator overnight, and then have them ready for Saturday morning. Just saying, I think that's kind of the way to go for me at least. So I got 12 on a quarter sheet. I think that's perfect for me. I want to leave the other quarter sheet alone here. This is perfect. This is going to get covered with plastic, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator overnight. Like I said, you could bake them all today, but you're going to let these double in size before you bake them. So these are going in the fridge. All right, these guys look beautiful, don't they? They have sat out for the last 2 hours at room temperature. You can speed this up, I suppose, if you wanted to use a proofer or kind of put it in a warmer spot, but I gotta say a slow proofing is the way to go. These guys are ready to bake, and you'll see that they are kind of soft. They're not overproof, they're not quite touching yet, but they will start to touch once they bake. Let's put them in the oven. Now I did mix up a nice flat icing here for the topping. This is just powdered sugar, vanilla, and water. And you could use milk if you want. A lot of people want to use milk, but it doesn't really taste that much different with water or milk. You're not going to taste the milk. You want it about this consistency. And I think I started with about maybe 300 grams of powdered sugar, about 35 grams of water, and just a little touch, just a drop or two of vanilla, just to kind of give it that little boost. That's all you need to do, and that will cover all your rolls. I have to be honest with you, I already did some rolls, so this is not a full batch. This is about a half batch. But mix up that before you bake the rolls off, and then when the rolls are baked, we can put the icing on while they're still warm. But you want it about that consistency. Oh, these are some beauties. Look at the color on those. Time to take them out. It's just that light golden brown you want. You don't want to overbake these guys. A little gooey on the inside is kind of a good thing. But we're going to let these guys cool, and then we'll ice them up and have a taste. Well, they have cooled off enough now. They're still pretty warm to the touch. I would recommend doing this. Take a same size sheet pan and turn it right side up, upside down, and you'll be able to pull this right off, like so. You're left with a little bit of caramel there. You can pull this paper off if you want. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that it doesn't stick. Now, some people like to serve them with this side up. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Or you can, and just look at, see how gooey those are too. Oh man, that looks so good. So I like to ice them to order, mainly because not everybody wants the same amount of icing. So this, like I said, is kind of pourable consistency. I'm going to do it with a fork. I'm kind of a medium guy. I don't want a lot of icing, but I want some icing. Some people might want even more. But as you can see, they pull apart quite easily. And you end up with either that side or this side. Either one is good. But that is your roll there. Let's have a taste. And what here's something else you want to look for too, is that sort of soft inner, I'm going to kind of dissect it now, but that soft inner portion right now is really, really, I mean, it's baked through, but it's kind of gooey. Oh man, so soft. And then the icing is delicious. Nothing better, man. It's just one of my all-time favorites. And you can pull it apart, or you can let them cool off. These also freeze really well. And that's another reason why I don't want to ice them right now. I want to freeze most of these guys, and then as I want to use them, I get them out and then ice them. So that way they're not, the icing doesn't soak into the dough. So what do you think? Hope you like them. As you can see, these are so easy to bake. They do take some time to do though. But like most breads, you can break it up into your own workflow. I like to do it in 2 days, as you just saw. But I think you should give them a try. Even if it's something you've been thinking about doing, this is the time to do it. Put your own spin on them with raisins, pastry cream, or ganache filling. Whatever you want to do, it's your roll. I'd love to hear what you come up with. Good luck and happy baking. See you next week.